Ramayana Kalpavrksam.
Namaskaram to all. Jai Shri Ram. Thank you. I'd like to thank Dr. Ananda Shankar Jain for inviting us for this program. Thank you so much. And we'd also like to thank Professor Srinivas Varkade, Vice Chancellor, Central Sanskrit University, for suggesting our name to her. I know he'll be here tomorrow as a speaker, but it's our, as speakers, our duty to mention. Thank you so much for inviting us. And yes, we have met in multiple events across different cities, and we have had the opportunity to interact. Thank you. So, our earlier speaker has touched upon the subject of Rama Setu. We'll be dealing in a little more detail. By the time she sets the screen, I'll start discussing it. We actually started researching on the idea of Rama Setu somewhere in the early 2000. That's a good 25 years ago. And when we had done this substantive research on the subject, many people, of course, that was the time that the unfortunate idea to demolish the bridge was also there in the news. So many people asked us, why don't you bring this all data out, what you have with you, what you've compiled, collated, why don't you bring it out is what they suggested. So we did, and we did write a book on it called Historical Rama. That's in the 2010. Before that, 2007, we brought out a film called Historical Rama, which was first launched by Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar in Mumbai early on 14th November 2007, and later by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam in Delhi. So since then it's been making the rounds and it's been quite popular, and it was also used as a document for the case, etc., book. And the good point is we got the book forward from the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, Justice M.N. Venkatachalaya. So it became a document for the lawyers to discuss and take it forward from there. So we didn't want it to just be in the academic circle. We wanted to bring it into the legal purview for them to use it. So that's the book we wrote. Among the many books, this is one of them. That's all. Thank you. Now, getting on to the subject per se, so we came up with the idea of historical Rama because then the term was mythology. Everything was mythology because Greek mythology was there. So they applied the same connotation, terminology to Indian knowledge. And said Indian mythology, Hindu mythology. So we said, no, it's not mythology because as our earlier speaker so nicely said, iti ha asa, it thus happened. If something it thus happened, it is not mythology, it's historical, because the idea of mythology, myth, mythos, mythia, meaning not true, or being some truth and then building on top of it. No, this is itihasa, it thus happened. So very clearly we talk about a different game itself of itihasa. So that's why we came up with the idea, yes, he is a king, a noble person, certainly no doubt about it, a divinity, absolutely, a god, and each person has take on it, like Sant Tyagaraja, and they're on everybody. And as we look along, the point is, if this bridge is to be man-made, then the persons who make the bridge have to be historical. And if the person is historical, then the events that they carried through are also historical. So it's like a corollary. So that has to be, so as she coined this phrase.
So we used to say, divinity is a matter of faith. So people can argue and so on, but historicity is a matter of existence. So if you have existed, you're historical. And therefore, what are the evidences that we can find today, after so many millennia, to show that Ram had walked this land, he has been historical, and therefore his deeds, such as the Rama Setu, is also historical. So that is the point from which we will be looking at this entire set of data points. So what we've been doing is, yes, we have the story of Ramayana, and there are so many verses which point to so many aspects, from geographical to the kind of deeds and to values and so on. So how can we cull out the data from all this, find things that corroborate them from modern researches that have been conducted so far? See, what is happening is you have so many researchers doing such wonderful work everywhere, and each of them is so deep. Now, how do you string them all together to see the larger picture and the kind of picture that epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata and all present to us? They are the two itihasa of this land. So what they have said are true, and if they are true, then they should map with all these individual researchers that are emerging. See, in fact, even this capsule that we have, we started compiling all our work in a form of multimedia, because we realized that the data is not chronological, and we won't get it chronologically as well. We'll keep getting, and as research, modern science keeps advancing, we're going to continuously keep on getting, and that's why we keep updating this as well, as and when new researchers and papers.
Every day we update. That's the beauty of it. Every day we keep updating. So it's not just because we came up with something in the year 2004 or 5, done. No. Even yesterday we updated 2 more slides to this. That's how we are keeping it absolutely contempt, because the knowledge keeps growing.
And it's beautiful that they all converge. They seem to keep on, reinforcing the fact that it is historical, and it did happen around a particular time frame, which we can understand, which we can relate to as well.
So after this victorious battle, obviously all praised him to be God incarnate himself, and he clearly says, the shloka I said, I'm sure others would also know it. He says, I am human, son of Dasratha, time alone will tell what else. So he leaves it open there. And see, this work is Itihasa because it was written by Valmiki, who is contemporaneous to Sita, Lava Kucha and Rama, and he introduces himself in this work. So that's the beauty of it. Introduces to Rama himself. So that is a contemporaneousness, whereas all other Ramayanas are Kavya and Mahakavya, while this alone is Itihasa. So that is a distinction there.
And this was validated by Rama when Lava Kucha, they presented to him in his lifetime. And so he says, yes, whatever has happened, it was also, the data was also supplied by Sita, who was also part of the whole series of events. It was validated by Rama himself. So all of this end up making this a Itihasa, as we know.
Internal validation is what you're talking about. By the events or the people who were in it. That's what makes it. Okay, next point. So we have many Kavya, Mahakavya. Now, obviously you know the story of how it came about, the dialogue between Narada and Valmiki. The greatest of all. Is there somebody? Yes, he is present and living. That is Rama. So that's how the story came about. I'm sure the other speakers will speak about it. Let's get on to the subject given to us quickly for 45 minutes. Then we'll go back to other aspects along with it. Yes. In archaeology, we normally look at 2 types. Traditional archaeology, that's on land, and a subject that's come up in vogue in the last few decades, namely marine archaeology. We're going to look at only this for today's session. Okay. This building of the bridge. Yes, did they just write the name, or did they lot more? If so, what is what we're going to see now? And how true is it? And what data do we have? So if you look at the archaeological evidences, you may not get it one-to-one because it's under the sea. And the civilization has been continuous for 7,000 years and more. And so you're looking at the evidence there. So all of you live in your own houses. How often do you frequently change the furniture in your house? You change the tiles in your house. You change this wall to that wall, that bedroom to this bedroom. All of us do it, right? We even change the apartment itself, we change the house itself, we rebuild. All this you do in a few decades. What will happen over 100, 200 years? You're going to demolish the whole building and reconstruct it. What will happen over 1,000 years? Multiple times. Over some 1,000 years? Multiple times. If you look for the birthplace of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, it is there because it's just 150 years ago. They kept the room. But if you're talking about thousands of years, that's the thing that happens in a continuous living civilization. Remodeling happens. But why is the pyramids of Gizeh available to us after 4,500 years? Why? because the Nile River has moved eastwards by about 5, 7, 10, 11 kilometers. So this pyramids of Gizeh, huge blocks of stone, have been left in the desert.
So you must remember that mankind is the biggest destroyer of these evidences. So
it's
wherever footfalls are there, you can rest assured the evidences will vanish in a few centuries or so.
So in the case of the Nala Setu, since it is
Under
under the
sea.
sea now, it's available as an archaeological evidence is what we're trying
So
to say.
this is the same with both our heroes, Rama and Krishna. The only evidence is archaeologically that you can say for sure are under the sea because they were not disturbed. They went under sea and therefore they escaped the hands of mankind.
The travails of time. Okay, let's look at the text now. Look at the Ramayana. Obviously, as you mentioned, Nala Setu, because Rama Setu is a name that's in the last 400, 500 years old only. Before it was always called Nala Setu. What does the source text speak about it? About the construction of the bridge. First is they do a survey. What do you do before you build anything? You survey the area. Typically, you also did a survey. And here, the interaction between Samudradeva, which was again mentioned in yesterday evening's Harikatha. So there is a dialogue between Samudradeva.
She brought out the quality of Gambhiriam.
So there is a dialogue between and this is actually a painting we took from Ravi Verma's painting. We sort of adapted from that. So there is a very clear dialogue happening and says, it is the nature of the sea to be violent. It's the nature of the sea to have wild creatures. Various makara, not limitedly crocodile, alligator, various other sea wild creatures. It's nature. But in that, I'll show you the path. That's the key point here. So for them to cross over, the idea of Vanara army to cross over. So it is bound to be there. It cannot be styled. It has to be have its wildness. Go ahead.
So the
Next.
key point here to note is that I shall make it possible. I'll arrange for a place. I will show you the place where you can cross over.
So that's the painting we mentioned about. And then there was a survey area to cross over to Lanka. Very clearly, we're showing 3 points. We're going to deal with them now. First is a place, what in English is now called Point Caliber, Kodikarai. So it's near Vedaranam. That's where the salt satyagraha also took place in south. The way it took place in Gujarat. So this is that spot there. This is after the tsunami impact, we will take some photographs. So this is the Chola Raja's site is also there about that. This is actually technically the closest place to Lanka is here. To see that. And you can actually see Lanka on a clear sky day. From there you can see the island of Lanka from this point. And there is a proper mantap there. There's a proper mantap there. See, there's a plaque by the forest department there at Kodikarai. And this plaque calls this place as Rama Setu. It's a protected monument. It says ASA protected monument. So it's coming down to it. And this is, and the number, the date, everything is there, notification number, all that is available. It's called Rama Pada Mantapam. So and this is steps to leading up to it. And there's a mantap there and the padam there, Rama Padam there. And from there, we can see Lanka on a day that is conducive for long viewing. It's available from the highest point, you can see Lanka. So that is probably the first spot they had used to view and to even try to cross over. They had built something, but the sea area is not conducive to build anything there. So the salt pans, and the highest point from where you can view there. So it's all the sand, etc. You don't have corals there. You only have sand there. Next point. So that's where they originally probably saw it from. And look at this. We have taken effort to show Rama in a bluish green color. The way we show Krishna in a dark blue color. The way traditionally we've shown Rama, many of you dancers here, you'll know there's a particular bluish green color there for Rama. So today we took effort, both of us, to wear that color because thematically it should be that. Because we should bring out the whole theme in it. So this slide is also all bluish green. What did it for the purpose? Then obviously you come to Tirupallani, where Rama for 3 days, nights, Darbasayana Rama. There it is Dhyana. That's a place. This is one of the 108 Divyadesams. It's there. This is the place there. And finally, they come to Dhanush Koti. That's where from there they build the Rama Setu. So this is obviously the place been tsunami hit multiple times. Oh, not just in the recent decades, but even 500 years ago. Multiple times tsunami hit, that's what you get there. So let's go on to the subject. Next. So now, there's a clear offer and planning. When we see the survey, who is making the offer to build it? The Vishwakarma in the Vanara army, that is Nala and Nila. They are saying, we are Vishwakarma. We are trained Vishwakarma. We are born in the lineage of Vishwakarma. And we have the skills to build. Because there was question 25 years ago, did Nala and Nila who built it, did they go to an engineering college? There was, unfortunately it was there. Yes, they did. They were trained to be civil engineers and also hydraulic civil engineers. That's the word I had used with her when we spoke on a conversation a couple of months back on the phone. They were hydraulic. So they were. Now look at this. In the Vishwakarma Vamsa, in their training, there are 5 types. I think we need to go back to the 5 types of architecture, I guess. There are 5 types of, so 5 skills there are Vishwakarma. Tradition, look at that. So Manu, Mayan, Tvashta, Shilpi, Vishwakarma. So there are 5 types of Vishwakarma that you very Vishwa, world, karma. Who creates your world is Vishwakarma. And you have them. So they build this. So one, you have the idea of the, so Indraprastha, Kishkinda, then also in the text like Silapathikam, everywhere you have the concept of Vishwakarma very clearly there. And also, in both Dwaraka as well as Nala Setu, you have them very clearly.
And it's very interesting to note here, both Dwaraka and, see, when you talk about Indraprastha and all, you use the word Mayan more. Because there you're talking about the city. The focus is in developing the city, the palaces, and all those kind of architectural works. Now look at Dwaraka and Nala Setu. Dwaraka, yes, it did evolve to be a big city and there were palaces and all that. But fundamentally, the starting point was what? Reclamation of land from the sea. So it is a reclamation of the land from the sea, which is the fundamental main point over which then the Dwaraka city was established. Likewise, here you're talking about the bridge being built across the sea. And in these 2 cases, you find the architects. See, the architects of India, we saw the 5 types. And overall, they're all called Vishwakarma. But also the words that our ancestors have used when they are describing these deeds, they're using Vishwakarma very nicely for these kind of hydraulic engineering works. And they have used the word Mayan for those kind of city and palace building and ornate work and all of that. So this is just a point that we wanted to draw your attention to. The question now will come, who is a Vishwakarma?
Yeah, before that, so where are the hydraulic civil engineering works of today in the last 4-5 decades being done substantially in the world? In Netherlands, when they built the huge dikes to reclaim from the sea. So it's been happening across the world, reclaiming from the sea. It's a continuous effort. Now, look at the Rig Veda. There are various suktas. Yes, Hiranyagarbha Sukta is there, Nasadi Sukta, Apa Sukta, Purusha Sukta. There's a clear Vishwakarma Sukta in Rig Veda itself.
And these are in the context of creation happening. So the start of creation. So this is actually the list from our creation capsule where we've collated about how our works describe creation. So in that, they are having a Vishwakarma perspective to creation as well.
Shishti.
This Sukta.
So he creates the world, not the world. He creates the universe. Uni, not uni. Prapancha, that which is made up of the 5, the special 5. So the Prapancha, Srishti, Vishwakarma as a hand. Vishwakarma. The beauty of it. See, so it's not
the one
just
who creates your world for you,
is
be it your home, your city, or even the entire universe.
So that's a Vishwakarma.
Coming back to our engineers.
So you have very clear explanation as to they present themselves and their skill to their king Sugriva, and with their king they meet Rama, present their credentials and they do their drawings to build it. That is what it is. very clear. So, and what they use, what trees they use, how they do it is all filled. What the names of the trees that they use, for the wood filling, all that is there. So, we mentioned the names of all the trees are there. We'll see that in another 5 minutes. Why the trees? We'll see that also. So, they bring, and those trees should be native to that part of the land. You cannot say, I brought the other tree and put it there, because the other tree does not grow in Ramanathapuram. Okay, so that's what I can say about that. So you have to show the trees of native even trees. So ecologically, it's valid. It pertains to the area as the key point what I'm trying to say. So because Valmiki was sitting there and writing it, he could have mentioned the trees in his forest, in his vana, in his ashrama, next to his kutir. No. The trees have to be native to this place where the bridge was built. That's the key point there. That's all this mentioned in a book. Go ahead.
So they are very clearly describing how they drew up strings, they kept the rocks in a straight line. So they're talking about a proper effort, an engineering effort that is happening very consciously. You do a survey, then you do a offer, you do your proposal, drop your proposal, say I will do it, I need all these people, and then you come up with a plan on how you're doing it as well.
So there's a linear alignment to the bridge, and how many yojana also we'll see now. Why that yojana also we'll see now. See, and look at the Vanara itself, we're looking like Rakshasa. The Rakshasa is supposed to be huge. So, like that the Vanara also. And they did this job very fast. As I said, 5 days, yes. Each day, how many yojana they covered, it's also there in the text. The shloka numbers are mentioned. It's all there in our book too, for all to read. So here we have a qualified, trained, experienced civil engineer of these times, presenting his credentials and building the bridge, and they did mapping of it, what they needed to see, proper mapping. This mapping was supposed to have come down through the millennia and finally be kept in the Yalpanam Museum in northeast Lanka, supposed to have been there. Unfortunately, about 4-5 decades ago, that museum was burnt down. So we don't have that data now, but there are people of those decades who said they have seen such mapping. Because obviously when they finish the map will go to the other side, it will not be kept back this side. Because when they go there, so they said it's sort of reproduction across millennia had come down. We don't have it. Unfortunately, we lost it for humanity now.
But it's also very interesting, even in some of the temples today, you will find that the plan of the temple in a very small scale will be drawn and, in one corner of the temple. It is there in a few temples.
It's a habit of all Vishwakarmas.
These tapatis will tell you which are the temples where they have these kind of things. So this is very natural. See, these are independent pieces of information that we have come across which go to ratify. So we came across somebody telling us about this kind of a drawing which was then taken down into palm leaf manuscript and kept in Jaffna. So which tallies with the practice that you find on land even today.
So what is the foundation they used for constructing this bridge? One, there was an underwater sea ridge already, and that sea ridge in the survey was identified as Samudradeva says he'll show them the path, and then Nala, Neela and other Vanaras saw this, and on top of the sea ridge, they put the wood as the bottom layer and tied it down so to get the wood cushion effect of these trees, and on top of that, they put large stones to press it down, to tie it down. And then on top of those large stones, they put smaller stones to balance it out. And on top of those smaller stones, they put even next level of smaller stones to give you the flat finished level. That's what you got. So when you say the squirrel helped, certainly yes, but not of. Okay, point taken. Okay, so not the squirrels helped in the sand at the finished level. So what you have in the bridge is actually not an undulating layer, but a flat finished level is what you have in the bridge. That's the beauty of what you have there. Next.
And of course, over millennia, this would now have been covered with sand. That's what you find there. You will find sand dunes. And all this wood has now become carbonaceous material, which are there under that sand dune. And this has been verified by certain marine geologists. We have some of the records. We have spoken, interacted with them. Dr. S. Badrinath is one of them.
Badrinath is one of them. So,
Badrinath,
so when you shovel away the sand that's accumulated over 7 millennia or more, what you would find there in specific places is this structure. They have done 11 drills in this and found out the drill details as to layers. Those have all been gotten identified and the data has been recorded by the Geological Survey of India, not 20 years ago. Unfortunately, because the department was under the government of India, then the times were not conducive to bring out the data. They didn't bring it out, so we brought it out there. That's all. And next is the linear alignment. One is the flat finish level of the foundation with the layers, linear alignment. So the way when anybody builds now, they use strings and ropes and all the, you have markers. Markers were used to ensure, it was not random throwing of stone into the sea. As he said, it's not just random naming of it and writing Sri Rama's name. It was a very clear linear alignment that was built there. And this linear alignment is visible even today by when you go by flight. Normal commercial flight from Colombo to Chennai, when you go, you can clearly see this linear alignment. See, it's not jagged. The alignment is very clear and linear. That's the beauty of it. This is a normal photograph. And this is the top surface, actual top surface that you can see when in low tide. Okay, that one. So what did they do? Third level, they used the topography. How can you build a bridge in 5 days that won't see? Is it possible? At times of war, yes. World War II, World War I, various wars, Bailey's Bridge have all been built in short spans of time. So many things are possible in war. So they used the topography in building this. So they filled up the gaps needed. There are some 102 or so more gaps have been identified. Pillars, rocks have been identified in the sea. They've been listed out also at different times. So they filled up this and then created the flat surface. That's what it is. Go. So it's mentioned there very clearly. There are 103 patches are there in the sea. It's been identified now. Many people have said it. ISRO has also mentioned about it. Other agencies have all been able to chart it out. That's one. Then when you build something in the sea, many of you physics students, you know there's something called pore pressure. If you don't handle the pore pressure, a structure will break down sooner than later. If a structure withstood for 7,000 plus years, the pore pressure will be enormous in seas, has to be handled. It's important to factor that in. Otherwise, you cannot do hydraulic civil engineering, that too in high seas. So that has been handled very well. You can see the water seeping through. Of course, now because of the sand accumulation, it's substantially reduced.
See, if it didn't seep through, when there is water hitting it continuously, waves, especially in sea, you will find huge waves and splashes. And what people who have studied, the marine geologists who have studied the structure are saying very clearly, there are bores right through the structure through which the water can pass through. So it doesn't hit that obstruction and therefore doesn't break the structure nor create those kind of huge waves. It's just able to go through. There is really no obstruction to the water.
Look at the
so it is very smooth. Actually, the Park Strait is very smooth over there.
This has all been done by a person named Park, P-A-L-K, Park, a British engineer, 150 years back. That research is also available. It's in our book. So pore pressure concept, they knew and incorporated in the hydraulic civil engineering. Then you have the coral rocks. As I said earlier, in the first Adi Setu, there is, because of sand, there was no coral rocks. This area, the sea was up and had gone down a couple of centuries earlier. So the coral rocks were left visible on the soil. So the coral rocks were picked up and then used by the Vanar army to fill this up.
See, what is interesting with coral is, first coral grows on rocks, okay? And while you find it underwater, you all would have seen, many of you would have gone snorkeling in many resorts to see this. Now, when it grows underwater, but it grows in places where their sunlight can reach it. So it cannot grow in deep sea. It will grow in shallow waters. Now
on rocks, on solid rocks.
That is one point. The second point is it has to grow on something very solid. Now, what they found in the case of Rama Setu, all these rocks, they were coral, which is why they would float. Now, these rocks, the layer under that was not rock, it was loose sand.
Carbonaceous material.
So, on loose sand, coral cannot grow. So, which means that this coral has been transported from somewhere and placed on this loose sand.
Look, everything adds to the other beautifully by itself. That's why we say Ram Naam Satyahai. Each one adds by itself, only if you care to look in detail. So that's how you have that idea also. And many people have documented it at different times, archaeologists. We've got all the records put up in our book. Let's move on. And this is what the Supreme Court had then said on this. All this is there in the book. Because we have short of time, we'll go to the other key points. Now there comes the execution of it. They use yantraha, heavy machine movement. So it was not just people lifting it over their head and then dropping it there, but equipment was also used, very clearly mentioned. Then we go on. And the number of yojana each day. So what is yojana also we'll come to now. So each day how many yojana? And look at this. The ratio of this is 100 yojana length to 10 yojana width, which is a 10:1 ratio.
This is what is mentioned in the text.
If you look at the actual site condition, it is also 100 yojana long, 10 yojana wide, which is about from Dhanushkoti to Talaimannar, it's about 35 kilometers long. This Nala Setu, which is about 3.5 kilometers wide. So people have asked us, why do you need a 3.5 kilometer wide bridge? One, the undersea ridge afforded it. There was enough corals and other material to be filled up there. Three, the Vanara army was that large, needed that width to cross over. So you did not build a narrow, thin, what you build on a farm field, no, between two farms, you just build a, what you call as a varap in Telugu, Kannadam, Malayalam, Tamil. So it's not like that. It was a broad, wide one for lakhs of people to cross over. And that's a 10:1 ratio. So that what are we getting now? For 100 years, so it comes to 35 kilometers, means 10:1 ratio, 1 yojana comes to 3.5 kilometers. Then what is a yojana? In another text in Sayanacharya's work, Marshall has said some 8.9 kilometers is a yojana, Bhu yojana, Ba yojana is mentioned. That is mentioned there. And as he mentioned in Ayodhya, it's 12 yojana. So there is a yojana mentioned there. So is all yojana uniform across the land? Probably no. Is all yojana uniform across centuries? Probably no. So what do you use as the base measure for using your base calculation? In England, they use the person's foot as to say it's the king's foot or something. You say it's 1 foot. Then you use a yard. There. What do we use as the base measure for calculation for all the grand temples of Bharat, for all the grand monuments? Use the length of the most grown grain of that place. The grain grown in Ayodhya would vary from the grain grown in Dhanushkodi, will vary from the grain grown where Sayanacharya lived. So that grain becomes your base measure, from which you thereon evolve and you get to your various. So the yojana is not common all across Bharat. Yojana is a measure, that's all. And it depends upon the local topography, hydrology and various other factors, the crops that you grow, the crops that you need in that area. So it's all very local factors come into place. What we're
and at this point, just want to bring to your notice also and draw your attention to the fact, especially in connection with Ramayana and Mahabharata, when we talk about space, distance, when we talk about time, you find these terms yuga and yojana. And our mind trained to the present way of measuring and noting all this, we think of it as absolute values, either on the meter scale or mile pound scale. You should remember that the terms yuga, yojana, they are generic terms to say that it is a distance measure, it's a time measure. And you know the beauty, how it comes about. This will really help you clear your minds when you come across data about Ramayana and the dating, the time and all of that, both Mahabharata and Ramayana. See, the root word is yuj, which means a union, a alignment. Union and an alignment. Alignment, look at the word line, alignment. It is a line which aligns any two things. So what is a yojana trying to align here? It is aligning a line between 2 points, 2 end points. You're drawing the line. So that is the measure. Your distance, your measure is that length of that line, which is that alignment. It's coming from the yojana, yug. Okay. Now you also have the term, this is the beauty. You also have the term yojana for your programs, Pradhan Mantri, so Awas Yojana, that Yojana, this Yojana. So where is yojana coming in that context? There again, you have, when you are starting a program, you have your start state and you have your end state. I want to achieve, that is my objective, that is my goal. So your program, your plan, your series of steps is what is going to take you from this state to that state. It's going to align. So that is also a yojana. So same with yuga. Yuga also, there are many, many, many yugas. 1 year, 5 years, 100 years, 60 years, so many,
Manava
4,32,000 years, so many, 26,000 years, many
Bhu
yuga are
Ba
there.
Yuga, Ayana Yuga, there are many, many varieties of yuga. We are in Hyderabad, Bhagyanagar, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh. What do you celebrate your New Year as? It's New Year, you should not celebrate it as Varshadi.
Why you should celebrate it 4,32,000 years
So if
only
you
you
say-
should celebrate. You celebrate
Why
every
do you call
year.
it Yugadi and not Varshadi? Basic question. Because a yuga, one revolution of the earth around the sun is also a yuga.
Because it is aligning. So on that Amavasya, that Pratipada, your sun, your earth first, the sun, the moon, they're all in one line. And with what? The Chitra zodiac. So
Rashi.
the Chitra nakshatra, the Aries zodiac. So they're all in alignment. So that is why that is a yuga. Yuga is also alignment. I mean, yuga is fundamentally alignment. So every different scale of yuga, every day is also a yuga.
5 years
Nine-
it's over yuga. Samvatsara, 5 years because that's
That's a
when you are
calculative yuga when your
Lunar-
solar, lunar year cycles come in alignment.
Chandramana, Suryamana align with your Adhik Masa. So that's also yuga.
So you
60
have
years
to-
is also yuga.
You have to bear in mind the Indian ethos of these terminologies when you start to analyze all these texts.
So we've seen that. So that idea of yuga. So then it's a post-aerial viewing when they return victorious in the Pushpak Vimana. Rama points his house to Sita and says how it was difficult to build, and it was with the help of the engineers par excellence, Nala, Neela, we built it. So he calls it Nala Setu very clearly. So the name given to the Setu is Nala Setu by Rama himself. We in veneration later in the last few centuries we called it Rama Setu, before that Adam's Bridge, because there's a person by the name Adam who was of the Islamic faith, who crossed over from South India over this then walking footbridge into Lanka, and he was called Adam. So the Lankan Muslims called it Adam. This data is there in the Saraswati Mahal Library, so that's why it's called Adam's Bridge too, also later. So you have this in the Purana where you got the 3 lingas. And look at this. So it was popular and walkable. It's a walkable footbridge even during the Mahabharata times, 2000 years later post its construction. You know why? Because in Mahabharata, in the Vanaparva, 20 chapters, when they are discussing with Rishi Markandeya, he speaks about the great achievement their ancestors had done in building this bridge, and the account of the construction of the Nala Setu is explained by Rishi Markandeya to the Pandava brothers. It's there. So it comes in Mahabharata. So obviously it's after that. So 2 millennia after that. So internal consistency you're getting. Next. So it's there in our book too for all of you to read. It's there in film too for all of you to read. This is there. So it Abhiksha, Kukula, all that is mentioned. Everything is there written fully. And how it was the army that built it, the skilled engineering, that's all mentioned therein. And who built it, and whose son is this Nala, that's also mentioned. All that is there. And how many yojana they built. So again, 10:1 ratio, 100:10, that's also mentioned. Okay. Then look at this interesting part. After that, uncle and nephew decide to go south. Sahadeva and Ghatotkacha. Sahadeva stays here at the Dhanushkodi side to do dhyanam at the beginning of this bridge. And what does Ghatotkacha do? He crosses over into Lanka to meet the descendants of Vibhishana, who are also Rakshasa, his Kula. He goes to meet his cousins on a friendship mission. So see, 2000 years, that's what it says. So Gadadgaja walks across. So it's a walking footbridge 2000 years later too. That's a fact that comes out. Similarly, Kalidas also mentions it. And you get this in various texts. We'll quickly run through. Because there is coins by Rajendra Chola period, 1000 years ago, mentioning about this. The famous Tiruvallangadu copper plates have got it. Mentions how the difficult bridge. Then the times of Krishnadevaraya, the great king of Hampi. He says, look at this. The amount of dana that he gave, the water, that sesame seed water that he pours, from Hampi, the water is flowing all the way up to Rama Setu. So that is the amount of dana that he's been giving. So the water flows where? It has to flow across Tunga, Bhadra, Kaveri, and then cross over all the rivers that go up to Rama Setu, it seems. So much of dana is given.
Streams of water poured out.
No.
From Gokarna, it's going to Rama Setu. It's flowing that
So
much.
that's a geographical marker. Whether it really flowed across is a different matter, because that's why you speak about kings and eulogize them. That is there. Then you look at the coins. What are the coins there? Look at the coin in the Yalpana Arya Chakravarti. They are also Arya kings. Arya, not Aryan. Arya kings. Yalpanam, Jaffna. So their royal insignia says very clearly, they uses the word Setu. Look at the word. There's a bull there, and the term Setu is there. In the next slide, even better. See the Setu there. Very clear. Setu. Very clearly in their language then. 400, 500 years back. Very clearly, see. So the term, so they were all the Setu Kavalans. They were the guardians of the Setu. That was their main work. So there was there, and this is mentioned. So here you have this.
Just across.
In the Parantaka Chola plates, again you have this. The idea of, look at this coming through millennia after millennia after millennia, continuously. Again, see, Setupati. The Ramnath kings are all Setupati. So, even now, they are tightly Setupati. They may be kings, but what are they? The guardians of Setu. That's what they are. So, again, it comes through repeating. Go for. Let's cut all this. So, now you come to Central India. Again, there, in the time of Akbar also is there. Next, move on. Now, the architecture. Yeah. You go to Southeast Asia. Yesterday we had the wonderful rendition, amazingly wonderful rendition of Ramakyan, Thai Ramayana, so authentically done. You go see, and these are photographs we took when we were there, researching on this subject also. Repeatedly you find mention of the construction of Rama Setu in the different temples, be it in Prambanan, Tapram, everywhere. More, fast. Just want to say the sea life, the wall, everywhere. Consistent. Across the oceans. You just want to show you samples about the different paintings, the Chinese version. You find this across the land. In Angkor Wat, the grand temple, Nagara Vatika, called Angkor Wat. There also you have very clear mention of the Rama Setu construction. Beautiful, amazingly beautiful. Each bit, these are all photographs we took, identifying the spots. Then she mentioned about the French Ramayanas. Look at this. In the Phnom Penh Palace, by the Mekong River, which is actually nothing but the Frenchized version of Ma Ganga, there became Mekong. So Mekong is a Southeast Asian river, but its original parent name is Ma Ganga. Mekong. That's all. There in the palace, inside the royal palace, Darbar Hall, this is what you have, the Ramayana painted on the roof ceiling. It's a very Frenchized painting. Very
Just
French.
like you would see in Versailles.
Very French paintings of the Rama Setu again.
So this is 1,000 years ago. In
Al-Baruni, when he comes along with this Gori Ghazni people to plunder and loot, he records everything. In his record, the south, the Setu Banda is very clear, the bond. Bandan, Bandhu, bond, Setu Banda. And here you have Marco Polo. Again, when he comes all over Southeast Asia and finally comes to the Malabar region, he speaks about Setu Banda. So it's the animation of how he comes and this records Rama's or Adam's bridge. So the term from Narasetu moves on to Rama's bridge. Next. So look at that. Vartema mentions about it. Look at every traveler starting to mention about it. As you go along the last 400, 500 years, Not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 encyclopedia. So it's a consistent mention across, and they all talk about the chain of shoals. Then, so see that. All this is there in a book to read. Because of paucity of time, we are just jumping slides. Now we have finally come back to the point. Look at the, we want to show you one or two government records and close the matter. Look at this. You got the Survey of India, Geological Survey of India. What is that logo? This logo, they came up in 1767, 250 years ago. Rama Setu Himachalam. That's the logo of the Survey of India in colonial times. From with Setu to Himachalam is the land of Bharat.
So that is how the British, this Survey of India was instituted by the British. And then, of course, it has continued. Survey of India, fundamentally, the job is to draw, charter out the maps and everything. So when the British wanted to start the work of drawing maps, they said the land limit is from Setu to Himachalam.
Look at that. So geographically, so it becomes a marker point for all of us. Next, please go on. So, and you see these different reports, the McLean report, etc., where they speak about a tsunami that hit 400 years prior to that. In 1902, 1903, there was a McLean report which speaks that this till then walking land bridge was destroyed in a tsunami of those days in 500 years ago. That's what it says about. So it's very clear. That's what it speaks about. That's there in our book for all of you to read. The book is available on Kindle. See, it's very clear. It speaks. It was a walking sea bridge till 1480. When there was a tsunami, it destroyed portions of the bridge. Since then, it has been not so much of a walking bridge. Before that, everyday horses used to travel between northeast Lanka and basically between Dhanushkodi and Talaimannar, and bringing milk to the Ramadana Swami temple. Fresh cow's milk every day by horse. They used to bring. So that's there, and different, including the Tamil Nadu Gazette very clearly says it is a man-made bridge. That's the reality. That was then, of course, since then political things have changed. That's different. Okay. So all this data is available. We wrote all this 25 years ago. It's all there. How different times have said, move on. The satellite image is a key point here. See, people say NASA image. Let's be clear. NASA is a remote sensing agency. It's a space agency. Remote sensing is one component of their work. So let's not outsource our knowledge to NASA. They are doing their bit of job of space exploration. In one of them, they take some snaps of different aspects of the Earth. One of that is this, that's all at best. So they say that the substratum is millennia old. The man-made accretion on it is far lesser. So we clearly say in our film.
And they say that the age of that cannot be determined by the astronauts' photographs. They're very clear. But, these statements were ignored, and we have all just been holding on to the fact that it's...
See, NASA is not the be and all end all of. Their job is one, they're doing a good job at it. But we need to understand from our perspective and use it from our perspective. More. So the land at both ends is many millennia old. The bridge is also ancient, but it is man-made on a natural sea ridge. That is the key point that we get through all this data. Next.
So we use the word, see, there was this black and white argument. It's man-made? No. It is, natural. It's either man-made or natural. What we said is, it is a man-made accretion over a natural sea ridge. So that is the phrase we actually took care to compose and then, circulate it around. It is both natural, it is man-made. There was a natural sea ridge over which they built a man-made accretion so that they could complete the bridge on time. So both ends of the argument hold good, it is grey.
So then at later it became from Nala Setu, it became Rama Setu, from there it became Setu Banda, then Adams Bridge. So it evolves in time. But the original name holds good in all our records, very clearly says. And look at that. Not only that, we have been able to come up with the dates of the actual construction to the month of it. All this happened around, I think you go back one slide, please. This is not important, that other one. Just all there. Forget it. This is the one. So we have done our dating of Rama. Actually, you were asked in a forum if we can have a humor, 20 seconds of humor. I was talking in an audience in a ladies' college in Bengaluru. So they asked me, we did date historical Rama and put it up. So they asked me, what about Krishna dating? I said, no, you see, Krishna did lot of dating, so it's easier to date him. Rama didn't date much, it's little more difficult. So here, we have been able to do both, fortunately, in the last 25 years, and come up with the specific dates when this happened in 5076 BC, that's available. And this S.R. Rao, Dwarka Rao, we probably took the last interview of his before his Swargiyata, and we put it up where we compare the two efforts of both Dwaraka and Nala Setu and bring out the contrast in the civil engineering, hydraulic civil engineering aspects of it very clearly. So
he says very clearly, for the ancient marine engineers who could build a tidal dock at Lothal in 2300 BCE and also modify a ridge for berthing ships at Dwaraka, the piling of stones on the Adams Bridge for an army to reach Lanka must have been a very easy task, very, very much doable and within the radar. And we have our Valmiki Ramayana saying all of this and corroborating it with what you actually find even today if you care to investigate.
that's the key word there. We said this, so it was been a footbridge. It could be a railway bridge in the future. And Mahakavi Subramani Bharati, actually one of his famous poems says that how he says 100 years back itself, it must be built back as a walking footbridge.
And
The song is there. Shivaji Ganesh has acted in that song, so we're not going to show that. It's a 1.5 minute song. We don't have time. All of you watch it later on YouTube.
So this is important. In London University, there is this professor. Look at what statement he is making. It's the earliest and largest carbon fiber reinforced civil engineering structure known to mankind and which needs to be protected as a World Heritage Site. So when you get a carbon fiber, it's coming because of all the trees.
Wood.
All the sal and all those trees which have been put there. Otherwise, where do you get carbon fiber? So much of carbon fiber in the middle of the sea. You will find ridges. But where do you get these carbon fibers?
Reinforcing.
And he says, look at the words very carefully. Carbon fiber, reinforced, civil engineering structure. What could be more clear?
Every aspect fits in beautifully into the other, isn't it? What is said there fits in here. So it's a technological marvel and it needs to be made a national monument of this such so that we really get back to relish, enjoy. See, go back.
Yeah, yeah.
Next slide. That's shloka. We'll just end this with a shloka, then we'll take 1 or 2 questions. How many of you know this shloka?
So we all say, many of us just say it, right? Every time, anytime you want, you just say the sloka. Ramaya, Ramabhadraya, Ramachandraya, Vedase, Raghunathaya, Nathaya, Sitaya, Pateye, Namaha. And this actually brings out the entire aspects of Ramayana and Rama's various roles that he has played, what he has stood for different people of his times. And for instance, if you look at Rama, Dasharatha called him Rama because he was his Rama, the person who gave him that kind of a comfort. For Kaushalya, he was Ramabhadra, who was her protector, who was everything for her, who meant the world to her, and he was her point of safety, Ramabhadra. Then for Kaikeyi, she had her son. So, but Rama was somebody who was more enchanting, who was more attractive to her, like the moon. So Ramachandra for Kaikeyi. And Vedase for Vasishta. Because he knew Dasharatha is actually held as a embodiment of the 4 Veda. And Rama is the son of this Dasharatha. So he is Vedase. And for all the Rishi, the entire Raghunatha dynasty is the one that is protecting them and helping them go about their work. So Raghunatha are the people who were protecting them. And for Sita, he was just her Natha. And for her father Janaka, he was Sita's Pati. So this is a very nice summation of what Rama meant for everybody and what his monument means to us and how we should all take steps to protect it. And
so we'll just show you where the website and the film is for you all to go watch it later because for shortage of time, we have sort of rushed through. I don't know, we have gone faster than what the building of the Rama Setu has been in 5 days. We really rushed through. Of course, Normally we do a 90 minutes to 120 minutes presentation on Rama Setu alone, apart from a Raja aspects of Rama that we do. So this is, because there's a full film on this Rama Setu, you can watch it later at your convenience. There's a 40-minute film, there's a 7-minute film, 9-minute film, 11-minute film. You can watch each of it. There's a 3-minute film also on Rama Setu. We have made about 20 plus films only on Rama Setu at different levels of importance you want. You can take it forward. We also got books on it. And also a book on Ramayana Lanka and a book on historical Rama. All the films are available in our website and the books are all available.
So there is a playlist. So if you go to our website, there is films over here. If you click on this, you will come across many playlists. There's one which is called Historical Rama and Krishna. In that you will find some of these films plus many of our other talks pertaining to the history.
We have made only some 850 films on Bharata civilization knowledge. Only. So you want to touch
And just
1,000 by this year
scratch
end.
the surface. We haven't even
Just
come.
scratching the surface at best. And also we written about 100 plus books called Autobiography of India, where historical Rama and Lanka are one of them. That's all. Thank you so much once again to Dr. Ananda Shankar for giving us the opportunity to be with all of you in this event. Namaste.